Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down my top 5 defenses to stream for week number 13 of the 2024 fantasy football season, as well as some honorable mention defenses to pick up as well. But before we can get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. So without further ado, let's get into my week number 13 defenses to stream for the 2024 fantasy football season. We begin with my number 1 defense to stream for week number 13, and that is the Dallas Cowboys going up against the New York Football Giants at home in Jerry's World on Thanksgiving, the middle of the day game at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So the Cowboys defense is rostered only in 17.3% of leagues on NFL, 24.1% on ESPN, and 28% on Yahoo. So if you play on any other fantasy football platforms like Sleeper or CBS, then the rostership percentage could be slightly different, though you will notice in some cases that the difference could be very, very large from one platform to platform. So the Cowboys defense to start off the year was absolutely dreadful, right? Everyone was making fun of the Cowboys defense because the Cowboys as a whole just get the big gawk 9,000 special from the media, and then they typically end up not really reaching that apex, that point that a lot of people put onto the Dallas Cowboys of being this elite team. And while they weren't amazing early on in the season, as a whole, the defense really kind of felt like a humongous letdown. But ever since Dak Prescott got hurt, magically the defense has came alive as of recently. Now, I'm not going to sit here and be like, wow, now the Cowboys have the best defense in the NFL. But up against the Giants, man, you do not need the best defense in the NFL to be successful. And with how hot the Dallas Cowboys defense has been performing, I am very excited about this matchup. Now, the expectation is that Tommy DeVito is the starting quarterback for the Giants. Now, he is dealing with an injury, but everything that I have read from today on Monday indicates that Tommy Cutlets will be under center yet again. So week 12, the Cowboys defense goes up against the Commanders in Washington. They win 34-26. The Cowboys defense goes ballistic, right? 4 sacks, 2 INTs, 1 fumble recovery, and 26 points allowed. They also had that kick return for a touchdown from Cavante Turpin that honestly looked like something out of a movie. Like, it was such a funny play, like, oh, he doesn't necessarily grab the ball correctly, and then he does this spin move, and then the guy's running 8,000 fucking miles an hour like the Flash, and he's in the end zone, right? It was an all-time kick return touchdown, so if your league gives you kick return points, you also would have got a big bonus from that. So again, the Cowboys defense looking a lot better. 4 sacks, 2 INTs, 1 fumble recovery, 26 points allowed up against a Commanders team that most people expected, me included, that the Commanders offense would absolutely steamroll the Dallas Cowboys. Now the Tampa Bay Buccaneers go up against the Giants in MetLife in week 12. They win 30-7, 4 sacks, 1 fumble recovery, 7 points allowed. Tommy DeVito and that offense were completely and utterly limp dick. It seems like the team has quit on Brian Daboll. It feels like Malik Neighbors is infuriated with his usage based on his interview after the game. So while the Dallas Cowboys are dead, the Dallas Cowboys are not a team that is going to make the playoffs. The Giants are dead times 2. The Giants are even worse. And while I think we might see a slightly better game out of Tommy Cutlets, I think the Dallas Cowboys defense is going to be all over him in this game. And I think the fact that the Cowboys defense is so readily available makes them a high priority pickup on the week. So next week, the Cowboys play the Bengals on Monday Night Football. So even though the Cowboys defense has played better as of recent, I do expect them to get torn apart by Joe Burrow and friends. Though they do play the Panthers in week 15, so if you're able to hold onto them through that Bengals game, maybe pick up a different defense, I do think the Cowboys will be very valuable up against Bryce Young and the Panthers. Next up, we got the left hands up. Who are we? The Commanders going up against the Tennessee Titans, 39.4% rostered on NFL, 48.1% on ESPN, and 63% on Yahoo. The Commanders obviously lose to the Dallas Cowboys. They lose the game 20 26-34. The Commanders defense, who I thought would show up a lot better, were basically invisible. They did the John Cena special, "You Can't See Me," 1 sack, 1 fumble recovery in that game. Cooper Rush looked a whole lot better compared to how he looked up against the Texans in primetime the week prior, which does make a little bit of sense because Cooper Rush, I know he's not a great quarterback. I'm not going to sit here and get down on my knees and give him the Gawk Gawk 9000 special, but Cooper Rush isn't that awful of a backup quarterback, right? He's not like the Dolphins, Skylar Thompson, who the Dolphins are beating the ever-living shit out of the Patriots. Like, okay, Tua, you're done. We're up by 1 million. They give Skylar Thompson the keys. He goes to hand the ball off. Instantly, fumble, return for 6. So Cooper Rush is on a whole nother pedigree compared to some of these backup quarterbacks, and I'll give him a lot of credit. I didn't expect him to bounce back that well, and he looked very good in that game. Now, the Houston defense went up against the Titans last week, and they lost. That's going to be a topic of conversation throughout the week. How the fuck do you lose to the Titans? CJ Stroud basically has his own Dan Orlovsky moment. They lose 27-32, but the Houston defense was all over Will Levis. They were pounding Will Levis all game long, like a scene you can watch on the other tube that is the opposite of blue. 8 sacks, 1 INT, 2 fumble recoveries, 1 touchdown, and 30 points allowed. I'm not going to sit here and say the Commanders' defense is as good as the Houston Texans' defense. The Commanders' defense is coached as well as the Texans' defense. The personnel is the exact same because that would be an incredibly stupid argument, but you are going to get incredibly stupid plays out of Will Levis in every single game. It doesn't matter if he's going up against the youth 10 under team at your local fucking elementary school, right? I guess that's where 10-year-olds are, right? Or that middle school. Who knows? Who knows? But yeah, going up against some little fucking kids, then even then, Will Levis is going to throw some crazy picks. He's going to get sacked a bunch. He's going to do crazy, bad decisions. That's just what he does. Will Levis is fun to watch. He's like a worse version of Jameis Winston. And while I don't think the Commanders' defense really deserves any credit, when you're going up against Will Levis, a guy who just is the poster boy of making terrible decisions week in and week out, I really do believe that the Tennessee Titans offense will make bad plays. They will, like, Levis loves taking sacks to his face like his name was Lisa Ann. So I really do expect the Washington Commanders defense, while they're not great, they're not good by any means, to be able to take out the trash of Will Levis. Next up, we got the Los Angeles Chargers going up against the Atlanta Falcons. It's also important to note that for the Commanders, they are on bye next week, but if you want to hold on to them, they do play up against the Saints coming out of the bye, which is a fine enough matchup. So the Chargers up against the Falcons in Hotlanta, 59.9% rostered on NFL, 42.2% on ESPN, and 41% on Yahoo. Now, the Chargers play tonight against the Ravens on Monday Night Football, so we have to go hop in the time machine like our name was Marty McFly, back to Week 11 for the Chargers defensive stats. Now, Week 11, the Chargers defense go up against the Bengals, and early on, it's like, all right, the Chargers are really playing well, and then Joe Burrow started to really go ham down the stretch. Now, the Chargers do win that game, 34 points for the Chargers, but they allowed 27 points. One of the worst games out of the Chargers defense, in my opinion, on the season. I think the Chargers defense is a whole lot better than what we saw in that game with just 3 sacks and 27 points allowed. So going up against the Atlanta Falcons offense that they were also on bye. Felt like everyone was on bye last week, and there's no byes this week, but you better believe next week there's a million fucking teams on bye again. So the Falcons were on bye last week, so we got to go back to Week 11 for their opponent's defensive stats. The Denver Broncos defense, Week 11 up against the Falcons. They eat the W, Jameis Winston style, 38-6, 4 sacks, 1 INT, 6 points allowed. Now, I definitely think the Falcons offense is better than 6 points most games, right? Falcons have a solid offense, but they also have Kirk Cousins at the helm, and you kind of know that every once in a while, you're going to get a game out of Kirk Cousins that is so unbelievably gross that it is almost shocking to watch. And that could easily happen up against the LA Chargers, who have a very solid defense. So again, while I'm not going to sit here and pretend like the Falcons are this dumpster fire of a fucking organization, a terrible offense, because they have the pieces offensively, but sometimes the pieces don't all click together. The puzzle doesn't fit correctly, and it doesn't end up working. And I could really see a couple of scenarios where the Chargers defense put up a very solid performance here up against Kirk Cousins and the Falcons, again, mostly because the Chargers do have a very solid defense. Now, the Chargers face the Chiefs in Kansas City next week, which does indicate that you don't want to hold them for another game after this one, especially since after this week, they do end up going up against the Bucs offense. And I know there's definitely been some trials and tribulations with the Bucs as a whole, but that Bucs offense is rock solid. At number 4, we move to the Los Angeles Rams at the New Orleans Saints. So another team from LA, 16% rostered on NFL, 14.3% on ESPN, and 23% on Yahoo. So if some of these other defenses were available, Nick, some of these defenses are owned in too many leagues, Nick, I can't pick them up. Well, then guess what? You can definitely probably get the Rams. So the Rams go up against the Eagles last night, Sunday Night Football, as I'm recording this on Monday. They lose 20-37. The Eagles put on a complete and utter clinic. Saquon Barkley, what a fucking game. Saquon Barkley ran a train on that defense. He did not let off the gas pedal. What was it, 255 yards? Multiple touchdowns? And honestly, like, I get why people like to shit on the Giants. Oh, the Giants, they paid Daniel Jones instead of Saquon Barkley. Yeah, stupid decision in hindsight. But obviously, like, them holding on to Saquon Barkley, it's like that meme where it's like that nice sports car. I don't know off the top of my head what car it is. So just envision a Lamborghini, a Ferrari, whatever car, a Maserati, whatever car you think so highly of, right? And it's sitting there, and it's in like this fucking, like, the surroundings. It's like the grass is all overgrown, this shitty house, but they've got the Lamborghini, right? That's basically what the Giants were. They were a shitty team with the Lamborghini of Saquon Barkley, and he was being held back by the offense. And now in Philadelphia, he's been uncorked. There are people talking about how he should be the MVP. And honestly, while I do agree that he should be an MVP candidate, they are never going to give a MVP to a non-quarterback. Unless they put up something so insane to where they can win, I just don't really see it at this point. I really don't, especially with how the quarterback play has been around the NFL with guys like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, a couple other quarterbacks, Justin Herbert, the pervert. A lot of quarterbacks are playing incredibly well. So Rams versus the Saints. Again, the Eagles dominate the Rams. The Rams defense got face fucked in this game, right? They lose 20-37, just one sack, 37 points allowed. Again, the Rams defense got destroyed. But, and this is a big but, shout out to Mia Malkova, the Saints are a humongous step down in opponent compared to the Philadelphia Eagles. And prior to this game, for about the last 4 or 5 games in a row now, the Rams defense has really looked solid. So I'm not going to worry about one really bad performance up against an offense like the Eagles that you might consider to be one of the best offenses in the NFL. I don't think I'm ready to crown them, throw the crown on their head like the Burger King, right? But I do think if you want to be like, all right, the Eagles are a top 3 offense, I wouldn't really argue with that narrative too much. So going up against the Saints is a much softer matchup. Before we finish talking about the Rams, though, I would like to give you guys a quick word from our friends and our partner over at Underdog. If you're brand new to Underdog and sign up using promo code Notorious, you'll receive your free pick, which tonight on Monday Night Football is Justin Herbert higher than half a total yard. You match that with any other player playing in this game on the Ravens or any player playing on Thanksgiving or Sunday next week, Monday next week. And if both of your picks hit, you will receive 3 times what you put in your pick'em. If you put in multiple other picks, then the payout will be higher. They all have to hit, obviously, though. And you'll also receive a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. So sign up using promo code Notorious or by clicking on the link in the video description to get your free pick, which tonight's going to be Justin Herbert higher than half a total yard. If you're watching this on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, then it's going to be Jordan Love instead on Thanksgiving up against my Dolphins higher than half a total yard, plus the first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. So make sure if you're a first-time depositor on Underdog, you sign up using promo code Notorious. So when it comes to the Saints, they were another team that were on bye, right? Again, everyone was on bye last week. They're on bye, so we got to go back to week number 11. The Cleveland's defense, week 11, up against the Saints. They got rizzed on in that game by their new head coach, the Saints head coach, the Rizzler himself. They lose 14-35, 1 sack, 1 INT, 1 fumble recovery, 35 points allowed. I know the Cleveland defense really showed out up against the Steelers, but they didn't show up against the Saints. The Saints offense, though, sure, they've definitely looked better ever since they fired their absolute stooge of a head coach, Dennis Allen. But I know how these things go. A lot of the time, they have that, woo, yippee, we won a fucking game, yippee, we got rid of our head coach, it's all working, everything's going fine, Super Bowl, right? Everyone gets so excited. I don't think anyone on the Saints is thinking Super Bowl, but you get what I mean, right? They fire the coach, wow, it's all working now, and then it just all falls apart. It all falls apart, and I'm thinking that's what's going to happen against the Rams. Now, they could still win the game, but I think the Rams defense is going to perform a whole lot better up against Derek Carr. And Derek Carr is another guy that will just make egregiously boneheaded, pants-on-the-head, stupid level decisions. So the Rams play a red-hot Bills offense in Week 14, but if you can hold on to them and, maybe play a different defense. In Week 15, they play up against a Niners team, potentially without Brock Purdy, and then the Jets in Week 16. So they do have a solid matchup after the Bills game, and obviously you don't want to be playing them up against the no one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. Next up, we got the final defense to discuss before we break down the honorable mentions. We got the Green Bay Packers going up against the Dolphins Thanksgiving night. No one loves ruining holidays like the Dolphins. 2 years ago, the Packers play the Dolphins on Christmas. Christmas is ruined. The Dolphins lose. Tua gets a concussion. Tua is done for the season. The Dolphins lose to the Bills in the playoffs, and I am incredibly depressed. Now they can right the wrong. Dolphins versus Packers. And while I believe that Tua will be able to break out of that narrative, Tua can't play in the cold. Once it gets a little bit cold, once your nipples get a little bit erect when you go outside, Tua can't play. And rightfully so. That's a narrative that makes sense in the past. I think Tua is going to be able to beat out that narrative, and I hope he does. But let's be realistic. What's more likely to happen? This laundry list of Tua being bad against good teams, Tua being bad in the cold, or what's more likely, him to just magically shatter the mold in Week 13 of 2024? More than likely, Tua struggles. He's on the struggle bus. 48.4% roster on NFL, 33.8% on ESPN, 48% on Yahoo. While I pray to the football gods above that the Dolphins do end up winning, I pray that I guess this isn't Christmas, Thanksgiving isn't ruined. Probably will be. Week 12, the Packers defense up against a Brock Purdy-less 49ers. Belt to ass. They win 38-10. Josh Jacobs goes crazy. 2 sacks, 1 INT, 2 fumble recoveries, 10 points allowed. The Patriots just went up against the Dolphins. They lose 15-34 in Miami in the 305. 2 sacks, 1 fumble recovery, 1 touchdown, 34 points allowed. But that fumble recovery and the touchdown was Fugazi because they benched Tua and Skylar Thompson can't even fucking hand the ball off. The Packers are going to go up against the Lions in Detroit after this game. So even if they lock up the Fins offense here, I would be running straight for the hills prior to week number 14. So again, while I don't think the Packers have the greatest defense ever assembled, Avengers assemble, right? I do believe that ultimately when push comes to shove, Tua will probably choke. He'll probably do some stupid shit. This will probably be a low-scoring game. And even if the Dolphins squeak out a victory, I still think the Packers defense will be able to put up a mighty fine performance, even though I hope the Dolphins score 72 points in this game. Shout out to the 72 Dolphins. Now we move on into the honorable mentions here. We got the Denver Broncos versus the Browns. Nick, why don't you ever include the obvious defenses? Here they are, right? You have the Broncos, you're obviously going to play them against the Browns. You have the Chiefs, they're going up against the Raiders. I know the Chiefs didn't really play the best up against Bryce Young, but you're playing them up against the Raiders, whose quarterback situation is in dismay. The Texans against the Jaguars, going up against Mac Jones. That's going to be a finger-licking good matchup in Duval. The Lions going up against the Bears. Oh, wow, the Bears are really figuring things out. The Lions are going to be all over them in that game that is on Thanksgiving. Then we got the cold like Minnesota Vikings going up against the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals are so hit or miss. I wouldn't be surprised if the Cardinals drop 30 in the mouth of the Vikings. I also wouldn't be surprised if the Cardinals only had 6 fucking points. Then we got the Bills versus the 49ers, probably without Brock Purdy. Again, that's just an assumption, though, and assumptions make an ass out of you and me, so don't 100% say that's a guarantee, but I don't know if Brock Purdy will end up playing or not. Then we got the Giants going up against the Cowboys. The only reason why the Giants didn't make the normal list, right, and why a defense like the Packers and Rams made it ahead of them, while I think the Giants' defense is sneaky good, and they do have the New York sack exchange back there, Sexy Dexy, Dexter Lawrence and friends, seems like the Giants might have thrown in the towel. Over Anakin and I have the high ground. They might have given up. So while I do like this matchup on paper, Cooper Rush has also been playing better. So that's why they didn't crack the actual top 5 defenses to stream. And then we got the Bucs versus the Panthers. The Bucs defense is no bueno. They just locked up Tommy Cutlets and friends. I don't think that's really going to happen here up against the Panthers because Bryce Young did play well up against the Chiefs. But again, you know, Bryce Young could retract back to the mean and have a really piss poor performance. So those are the honorable mentions. Most of these are no-brainers. Broncos, the Chiefs, the Texans, the Lions, the Vikings, the Bills. The Giants are kind of like the add-ins. Hey, you weren't able to get the Packers, then pick up the Giants. Oh, you weren't able to get the Packers, then pick up the Buccaneers. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Again, please make sure that you guys do check out Underdog, promo code Notorious to get your free pick, which is tonight. Justin Herbert, higher than half a total yard, plus a first time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash if you are a first-time depositor. Again, make sure you guys check that out. And if you're watching this after Monday, and you'll receive Jordan Love, higher than half a total yard on Thanksgiving. I love you guys more than you will ever know. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below if you're new. Whether you are new to the channel or not, make sure you guys leave a like on today's video. I hope you guys have a wonderful Thanksgiving. I hope you guys are all having a great November. It's almost December. It's almost the holidays. I love you guys more than you will ever know. Thank you guys for everything this season, and let's eat a W this week. Have a great one. As always, good.